What if Billy kills you?
I'm not the one that dies, kid. I'm the one that does the killing.
Oh yes, Frank Castle is back, bitches. And to get it out of the way early, yes, the question on everybody's lips is, for how long? Will the Punisher meet the same fate as Daredevil and the other Marvel shows? When I'm writing this, who knows? By the time this review goes live, its fate may already be sealed. But regardless of the outcome, today I'm here to speak about The Punisher Season 2 and to see if it can continue the fine form it produced throughout its first season. And does it? Well, kinda. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed all of The Punisher Season 2 despite some glaring flaws, but it did not reach the heights that the first season did. It is a weaker season overall, at least in the feel of it, which I didn't think after the first few episodes, mind you. It was only when Frank got back into the city, things got a little, let's say, crowded. There are essentially two separate stories going on throughout the entirety of this season. The first, Amy and the hitmen that are after her with Frank trying to protect her, and then there was Billy Russo who was back after recovering from his wounds and escaping from that hospital. The balance with the two stories was a problem. Episodes were attempting to juggle one move to another, then shift back to the first. With all that, the focus was just being lost. The showrunners, I feel, would have been much better served sorting out the Pilgrim stuff around the midway point, say episode 6 or 7, then moving on to Russo and Castle's thirst for vengeance. Anyhow, we'll start off with the better and more positive of the two stories, which was Amy on the run and everyone who was after her. And I just want to take a second to say, how fucking good was that first episode? Man, I tell ya, it was an emotional, lost Frank Castle for the first half, and an unleashed, punishing Frank Castle in the second one. That bar scene is among the best I've seen in the show, easily topping my best scene of the season for me. It was just brutal, bloody, and everything I expect to see when the Punisher is involved in a fight. He was ruthless, and Jon Bernthal proves to us once again the reason why he was cast for the lead role. I can't really explain it aside from saying he just looks like a Frank Castle. He's hard as nails, remorseless, unwavering, and when needed, he can provide that touch of emotion for the character. The hospital bed scene with Karen and the goodbye with Amy at the end are two examples of that. Let's be honest, this show was never going to be as violent or as simple as some of the Punisher's stories that have been told in the past. Look, you already know I'm not a comic reader, so I have little clue in regards to that front, but shows these days just tend to gravitate to try and humanise a character and give them a little something more. The Punisher was never going to be a Frank Castle going from door to door murdering bad guys in cool, different ways. I mean, it sounds cool when saying it like that, but you come to expect more exploration nowadays when looking into a character's motive. Just the way of TV, I guess. And it might come as a surprise to many of you, but there are people out there who would, let's say, disagree with the Punisher's way of justice. Me, I just think that makes the character all that more fascinating. He's the one willing to skate the rules or the laws to get the job done. When those hitmen came after Amy in the first few episodes, he didn't know her, she didn't know him. She was a brat in the beginning, very annoying without us showing an ounce of gratitude. It's like, is that what you're going for here? Do you want us to dislike her already? Some of her choices throughout the season were quite baffling, but she did warm to me over time. Which the same can be said for John Pilgrim. He was a man tasked with bringing Amy and those photographs back to the man in charge. Little was explained about him at all really, and we could have done without all of that religious backdrop. Some is good, I didn't mind it at all at first, but it got a bit too stretched out a wee bit. But again, I think that fault lies in this particular story's length, which should have ended much earlier in the season. Josh Stewart was incredibly creepy in his part though. Never knowing what this mysterious man was thinking was a big part of this character, and having all that firepower at his disposal didn't exactly hinder his means. I mean, that was until Frank burned the majority of them down in that awesome section in the woods, that police precinct episode which was, I think episode 3, I believe, was another strong episode. It just meant that going forward, Pilgrim had to get his means done alone and with no backup, which he seemed fairly capable of doing, putting it lightly. He grew on me as a villain as the season went by, even if he went missing for episodes at a time. I was undecided early on, but once you learnt a bit more about his motivations with his wife and kids, you begin to see the path he is walking on and why. Doesn't change the fact though that he, along with a couple of others which we'll mention later, all should be dead. The Punisher would never in a million years let Pilgrim go free after what he did. I do not care about his kids. What Pilgrim did and those he killed was unforgivable, and the Frank Castle we all know surely would have put him down. Now, to shift from one villain to another, let's talk Billy Russo. Frank's best friend turned arch nemesis was due for a massive transformation this season. After being beaten into a bloody mess and smashed face first again and again into that plane of glass, Russo was ready to transform into the one we know as Jigsaw. They name dropped that title early without ever mentioning it again. But I don't know if it's just me or not, but I must admit I was a little underwhelmed with what happened to him, or to be more specific, with what happened to his face. I was expecting way more scars and the damage after what Frank did to him. Then I thought, oh, they might just keep adding to it perhaps to make it gradually get worse and worse, but nope, we didn't get that either. Look, I wasn't expecting Punisher Warzone levels of bad, but you know what I mean. I don't know, is it just me? Were you thinking the same, or were you happy with the Jigsaw we got? I was just underwhelmed. It was more like Jigsaw light. I know a more down-to-earth outcome is what we got in the end, but I can't help but think he could have added a bit more deepened, worse scars connecting together maybe, to really show us how ugly he became. Because Ben Barnes is still handsome as fuck, even with all those scars on his face. Seriously, this is something they hyped up majorly, which was a massive letdown. However, like Bernthal as Frank, Ben Barnes as Russo continues to be a genius piece of casting. I still think he is the best of the bunch in terms of acting skills, and you really saw that at the forefront when he was having his impulse and anger issues with Krista. And she, Krista the therapist that is, turned out to be just as twisted as he was, along with being the biggest downer of this second season. She was just so fixated on Russo and clearly nefarious from the beginning, you knew where the story was gonna go. It was so obvious and she had far too much screen time. I want to see the Punisher going about doing the business, taking out criminals and the scum of the city, not all these therapy sessions. We had too many monologues, too many obvious bolstering tales for Billy, and just generally too much talking. No, I want to see Russo tearing the city to shreds as well to try and lure out Frank, and then the two of them to go to war with one another, and we didn't get that either. And somehow she was able to go toe-to-toe with Madani as well, like, okay, she's Homeland and should be easily kicking your ass. That was a strange one, I must say. It was her plan to try and take Frank's ideals away from him, which was an obvious setup, though I must admit I did like those scenes which occurred, especially with the hospital bit, with Karen even making a one-off appearance. And I haven't even mentioned Madani yet, who was just as transfixed on Russo as Krista was, albeit for completely different reasons. She was nearly killed by him last year, nearly killed by him this year too actually. I thought she was a goner for a moment in the finale, now wouldn't that have been a shocker? If this show does end here, maybe that would have been the one moment they should have pulled the trigger on. She did put 3 bullets in Russo, so she would have gotten her revenge, which left him at death's door. I'll be honest, didn't think he was going to die this year, thought he would be the end game if the show went on for say 5 or 6 seasons. But not to keep harping back to it, but if the show does end here, at least that chapter has been complete. Billy wanted someone to be with him when he died. He called Curtis Mr. Reliable in every aspect for this show. Aside from him just giving the senator away at the end, that was just a bit off and bizarre to me. I know why he did it, he just actually added fuel to the fire instead of putting it out, but Curtis didn't come, did he? No. Curtis called Frank because, as we all know, he is the man to finish the job when no one else can. He turned up, didn't even finish listening to Billy's sob story and put 2 bullets in that traitor's chest. Frank avenged the death of his family by eliminating his former friend, and with it, went on to tie up that one loose end remaining in emphatic style. Bullet to the head of that woman was just so satisfying, she totally deserved it, and left the head of the family with a gun and one bullet to see if he could finish the job himself. Oh, Frank, never change.
Give me the gun.
I killed him.
No, you just shot him, okay? Hey, hey. See that? I killed him, right? Yeah.
My overall verdict for The Punisher Season 2, it's a tough one. I'm on the border, I really am. I'm gonna go with an 8 out of 10. Just about. And I say an 8, it really just about scrapes it. I might be showing a tad favouritism because I probably am, since The Punisher's my favourite Marvel character, but I just don't think it deserves a drop down to a 7 because to me it is still ahead of the pack aside from Daredevil, but the lack of focus and some disappointments contributed to lower the overall feel of the season come the end of it. Like I say, episodes were good, it was just the overall arc which faltered in places. Plus, I gave The Defenders a 7 I think, and Luke Cage Season 1 an 8, and I enjoyed this second season more, even if there were quite a few flaws with it. So you get a bit of a Rush vibe from it, I suppose, like the showrunners might have caught wind that this could be their last season, so they decided to rush the Jigsaw storyline along with the Pilgrim one. Feels much like that in places. I think maybe the idea overall was for Season 2 to be all about Pilgrim and Amy and just slowly build up Billy into Jigsaw and then have him be full Jigsaw in like Season 3 onwards. Feels very much like that anyway. I guess we'll find out soon enough. I still enjoyed it though, very, very much so. Like I said in my Season 1 review, Punisher will always be my favourite Marvel character. Just the morally difficult choices he makes, and him not being an out-and-out hero is what fascinates me about the character. No ifs, no buts. If you're a criminal and someone who's committed some vile or heinous act, the Punisher will put you down. And that is where I said I will mention a few things. That child pornographer guy would never be left alive by the Punisher. Do we all remember the time when he walked into that shop in Daredevil Season 2 and he took a bat to the guy's head for even floating the idea? He let this guy walk because Amy wanted him to. Fair enough not killing him in front of her, but nah, sorry. No way he would have let him live. And Pilgrim, for that matter, who we've said before. The guy murdered tons of people, and Frank let him live because of, his kids, and they sort of have that in common. I see what they're going for, but again, no, the Punisher would put him down as well. Right, moving on, to speak about Jon Bernthal again, he is just absolutely brilliant. The way he screams, grunts, yells, hey! Fucking awesome, and you can really believe him to be the Punisher in those moments. Like the, what are you gonna do, dumbass? There's 6 bam bam bam, and that was that. Just such a good, purely badass scene. And the scene that actually made me laugh the most was when Frank killed that man Amy, put a bullet in. I think I killed him, she panicked. No, you just shot him. Bang! And the arm was coming. It was just such an awesome scene. There are a lot of scenes like that and highlights that were memorable. Frank taking out all of those at the bar and protecting Beth. Best scene of the season again. And I half expected Frank to return to Beth come the season's end, but we didn't get that unfortunately. She was a pretty cool character who we saw ever so briefly, so I would have liked to see her at least one last time. Other standout moments was the time when he took out that mob at the gym. His line, I didn't murder anybody, they died from terminal stupidity. So many good one-liners this season. And when he finally put Billy out of his misery without even batting an eye. Also, let's not forget about when Pilgrim took out some of those goons of his own. Oh, hey Fusco, in that other bar scene. You know, maybe they could make a thing of this now. Like Daredevil has hallways, maybe the Punisher can have, like, bar fights. I quite like that idea. Detective Mahoney got quite a lot of screen time this year too. I think, in fact, more than any Marvel show yet, it seemed. He was a prominent and continuing figure this year as he was trying to coax and squeeze any information out of Agent Madani. You knew there would be a moment where he would stop coming after Frank, which came after Frank pulled him from that ambulance, but I suppose when we're bringing more people into Frank's world, he's going to have to go through that learning curve, much like Madani did. Frank does things in his own way. No laws, no orders, he will shoot to kill, which was brought up in the same argument about Frank and his actions. Madani and him were the pairing for it last year. Now it was Mahoney and Madani, with Madani sympathising with Frank's course of action. A little repetitive in terms of ground that's already been covered, but again, when more people are being brought into this circle, you know straight up Detective Mahoney ain't gonna like it, and he's never gonna accept it that easily. Good actor though, very good, and I hope to see more of him. But I do want to ask, where the hell was Micro? Lieberman was missed this year, and I was gutted he didn't make an appearance. His banter with Frank and tech savviness was brilliant in the first season, and I also hoped for a cameo at some point, but sadly, I think that chapter has totally passed, which is a shame. I think if I had to choose a favourite episode though, I'm going to have to go with the first one. The Punisher Season 2 began its second season incredibly well, and that bar fight is one of the primary reasons why the first episode is my personal favourite. It left such an impression early on. In fact, all the episodes where Frank was away from the city and when he wound up in that police precinct, all of those were really, really gripping. But the big question remains, will we see the Punisher again? Or do I hope so? The overlords at Disney or whatnot might not think otherwise, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we will see him again and at some point in the future. Solace though, this season was wrapped up really nicely and it will work as a series finale, which when saying it like that, you think that means what I think it means. Hope not really looking too good, but I will always accept more Punisher. Frank's always been reluctant to accept that mantle and that particular title, even saying that that's their title, not his. But now, with Billy dead, maybe, just maybe, if the show continues, we will finally see a completely unleashed, unchained Frank Castle, like that finale ending teased us with. There, we saw him coat, skull and guns in hand, going truly into Punisher mode. And if the show continues, wherever it continues, I hope to see him free from those chains and ready to relentlessly be who he is supposed to be, and that is Frank Goddamn Castle, the Punisher. That'll do it from me. What did you all think of The Punisher's second season? Were you as disappointed with the scarring and outcome with Jigsaw as I was? And which was your favourite scene of the season? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the review. And I'll see you on the next one.
I'll dance with you.